Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our first Build Your Career webinar series. My name is Scott Levine, and I'm the Membership Manager here at the IEEE Computer Society. Each month, we will be hosting a webinar on vital business skills that will help you excel at your current job and be helpful at your next job and throughout your career. Topics will be on communication skills, verbal and written, body language, and interviewing tips, to name a few. Before we get started, I would like to address some housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded. You can ask any questions in the Q&A box you see on the screen. Elsa will answer as many questions as she can. She'll take some questions during the presentation, and a majority of them will be answered at the end. We will reach out to you directly via email to answer any questions we were not able to cover during the webinar. Both the presentation slides and the recording will be available on demand in a few days, and everyone attending today's webinar will receive an email with the links to both the slides and the recording. Today's webinar is on personal brand management. Good, bad, online, and offline. We all have a personal brand, and our brand is how others see us. Elsa will walk us through the how-tos of personal brand reputation and management. As mentioned, joining us today is Elsa Velasco-Paul, co-founder and creator of the M&E Group, a marketing consulting firm based in Tulsa, Oklahoma since 1997. Elsa also serves as the International Customer Experience Manager for the global company, the Crosby Group. She also trains corporations on many different subjects, such as persuasive communication, design thinking, branding, as in today's topic, and leadership, to name a few of her areas of expertise. Elsa, thank you for being here today, and the floor is yours.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Scott and Michelle. I'm super excited to be here, and I am really excited to see what a wonderful and diverse group we have. As Scott was saying, I'm Elsa here from the M&E Group, and I'm going to give you the behind-the-scenes scoop on how to create and manage your own personal brand. For this session to work, I promise to give you something. I promise to give you a chock full of applicable, life-changing material that you can take home, that you can take to your work, and make a real difference in the way things are going. What I need from you is to commit to, number one, joining the activities that we have embedded in the webinar, because these exercises are going to be key to you working your personal plan of action that's going to be tailored to your unique needs. Scott, are you hearing some echo?
I think you're good.
Okay, good. I was just checking. Okay, so Scott kind of introduced something, and we do have a giveaway for this session. All of the giveaways that we have are part of the M&E Group's suite of existing products. The one that we have for today is very apropos to the times. It is going to be an optimized resume analysis. That's just a big word for we're going to look at your resume, evaluate everything that you have there, and we're going to make sure that that increases and boosts your employment marketability to the roof. It's really, really good. Normally, it's valued at $97. One lucky winner is going to get it for $0 today, complimentary. And just remember, your resume is the doorbell to your brand. So it's really, really important to have it. I'm sorry, I am really hearing a lot of echo. Mike, are you hearing echo as well?
I'm not, but some of the audience members are commenting.
Okay. Well, if it doesn't bother too much, I'll just keep on going. So with this, how are you guys going to win this fantastic prize? Super simple. Scott already touched on that. I want to make sure that when we have the activities, the questions, and the polls, make sure you participate. The gentleman that I just called out, Mike, he is also the co-founder of the M&E Group, and he is going to be selecting somebody randomly during the event that is going to get the resume evaluation. So everybody grab your cup of coffee, get pen, paper, put your running shoes on. Let's go. Let me help change your life in a very significant way. Some of you guys know that I am an attorney by training. So that's why we have this giant disclaimer here. We try to use some humor because I believe that humor makes things easier. But the bottom line of this is that some of the material you're going to see on today's presentation is proprietary of the M&E Group. Some of it isn't. Therefore, should you need to use any of this material or in any way or fashion, please, please, please reach out to us, either LinkedIn or through Scott. You will have our email at the end of the presentation. I will personally be more than happy to work with you and help you with whatever your questions are. Now let's find out who is on. On screen, you are going to see a poll that is actually asking who is online. I want to know what stage in your career are you currently in. If you're a student, if you're a PhD candidate, I want to know that differentiation. If you are an employee, entry level, if you're a team lead, if you're a supervisor, a manager, or a director, or the C-suite folks. So can you please go and make a selection now, and let's see who we have today on the audience. Okay. Scott, can you see how many folks we have that have answered already? Wonderful. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, this is a fantastic mix. I love this. I love this. Okay. Great job. This is amazing. I love having both ends of the spectrum. I love my students. Everybody knows that I have a super soft spot for you guys because I was doing all this chapters. Yay! Picture. I know how hard in the middle the team needs have it as my heart with you. And obviously, anybody who's in the managerial or in the C-suite position, because we have all three groups coming together and listening the same question. Let's see. Okay, I'm getting still some questions about echo. Oh, hello? Can you hear me?
Elsa?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yes, that's fantastic.
I apologize for this. Can you guys, through the chat, let us know if Elsa's sounding a bit better?
Oh, perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. That makes a world of a difference. Thank you so much, Scott. You're the hero of the day. Perfect. Yes, you do. Thanks, Michelle. Great. So I wanted to comment. This is key because we have the three areas, the three folks that have to do with these kind of conversations in the same session. This is fantastic. Again, feel free to use the chat version to ask all your questions and to post all your questions because I want to make sure that this is a working session and you treat it as such, okay? If you can't write it down right now, make sure that you put it on a scrap of paper, but don't miss it because believe me, it will be very, very valuable for you. So with that, when in the old days, and I'm going to say this very loosely, the differentiation between having a brand or having a personal brand was seen more like a luxury, like it's a nice to have, but it wasn't critical. Now, look at how things have changed. If you're an employee or an entrepreneur, cultivating your personal brand is more important than ever. One of the reasons why this has become so important is because recruiters now are using social media and your personal brand, whatever they can find, to actually decide on the interviewing process who moves on to the next rounds. The 2018 Career Builder Survey had approximately 70% of employers actually using scanning through social media to screen candidates before the hiring process and during the hiring process. More than that, 43% of employers use social media on a regular basis to check on current employees. So even after you've been hired, there's still a lot of fact-checking going on. Now, again, the goal of our meeting today is to make this resonate with you. What was before a luxury or a quote-unquote competitive advantage is now a requirement. Today, we're going to understand the importance of a personalized brand management plan. And on the way to make this click for each of us, we're going to address, number one, the steps. How do we do that? And then the must-haves for a successful plan for you. That means that we have to start from the top because we want to understand what we're talking about. So a key question that I get every time that we talk about personal brand management is, wait a minute, isn't it personal branding and personal brand management the same thing? Not really, but I'm glad you asked. When we talk about personal branding, quote unquote, we are referring to establishing and promoting you, what you stand for, what is the essence of you. Your personal brand is a unique set of combinations of skills and experiences that make you who you are. Effective personal branding is going to help differentiate you, set you aside from other professionals in your field. Think of it as a way that it elevates you and highlights who you are. Personal brand management, as opposed to just personal brand, is going to be then a set of focused, intentional, and consistent activities that you do to drive the quote-unquote you message, who you are. And that is exactly what we're going to focus on today. Now, think of personal brand relaying, good or for worse, who we are, what we do, why we do it, and even how we do it. A well-managed personal brand plan is going to make sure that that who, what, why, and how is what people hear, and more importantly, what people remember. Let's take this a step further and talk about this later. If we need a personal brand management plan, how do we know that we do? In my favorite question, Elsa, I don't really have time for this. I'm not going to do that. Let me show you what happens when you don't have a good personal brand plan. Let's look at this. When we talk about making the case for having a personalized brand management plan, it really makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And it makes it uncomfortable because all of a sudden it highlights you. So you have to talk about who you are, what you stand for, even highlight, well, this is the good parts of me, a little bit of bragging, let's kind of call it that way. It really doesn't have to be about controlling your personal brand. Let's not talk about that because we will never have absolute control. But it does help to throttle a little bit and include some of the traits that you want to on the conversation about yourself. Even more importantly, if you don't have a personalized brand management plan, you are missing out majorly on opportunities and not letting others control what the narrative should be. The key word that we're going to be talking for is going to be connectivity. So let me help you design the first one. Does everybody have your pen, your paper, or somewhere to write on? Because this next activity is key to everybody. On this next slide, we have 4 colored boxes. Each one of these contains words, descriptors. We like to call them core values. These core values describe, basically, you. Hopefully you can find yourself in any of these quadrants. What I want you to do right now is on your pen and paper, for the first quadrant, I want you to find at least one word that describes you. If you see yourself as a creative person, then I would write creativity. On the second box, the red one, I want you to find another word that describes you. So not only are you a creative person, but you consider yourself to be a generous person. So then I would write number 2, generosity. Then let's move to the one under the blue box on the left side. In the bottom, we have meaning. I believe that I am a person that looks forward to having meaning in everything I do. Then I would write down meaning. And then the last one on the right bottom side, let's find a word. I believe that I am a person who loves to serve and assist others. So I would write down service. Once you have written down 4 words that describe yourself, please share them with us so that we can see what words you have. I'm going to very good. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking here at any options. What are we looking? Okay, Scott, I am not seeing the answers. Okay.
You know what? I just opened up that panel on mine.
Perfect.
I'm actually not seeing that either.
Okay, I just saw one. Thank you. Great job. Very good. Curiosity. I love that one. Saharsh, that is outstanding because curiosity is going to be a key leader into understanding and being an innovator. So I'm excited. I have one of those. Oh, community. Yes. Yes, Tariq. I love that one. Oh, do I have a slide for you later? And leadership. That is a beautiful, beautiful combination. Accountability. Oh, my goodness. Everybody wants to be your friend, Kibran. Very good. Very good. And honesty and leadership. Excellent. Great, great questions, folks. Let's keep these here because we will be using this in maybe 3 more slides. So keep that piece of paper next to you, very, very close. So as we were saying, these descriptors are going to be an outstanding foundation to your plan. We have to work with these because these are the ones that are saying who you are and what you are standing for. Now that we have a good foundation and a good balance, let's talk about why we really need to have a personalized brand management plan. The key word here, as you can see, is absolutely connectivity. Whether we like it or not, connectivity has changed the game incredibly. It has changed the game, the field, and the rules of the social game. All these values that we have talked about in these 4 boxes are affirmed or contradicted by what you do and say, or by what you don't say or do. That is what we're talking about here with the natural law of vacuum. That means if you are not pushing and putting out there a message, something else is filling that void. And in my experience, most of the time, the void is not filled with good stuff. So you definitely want to be able to control that and be the one in charge of that. A well-designed and executed plan is going to execute efficiently, and it's going to boost everything you do. Your actions are going to be supported by your words, and the beautiful thing is going to create a congruent, a super solid message that people will remember. And those are the messages that we want to make sure we push for. In the end, my thinking is, why wouldn't you want to have your brand work for you instead of against you? And if it's not working for you, it is absolutely working against you. Now, on a personal level, I'd like for you to think, how many times have you been involved in a project of any kind, form, or fashion, either at work or at home? And a project can be something like, let's prepare for the holidays, or For example, we have a big project that we want to push in the company, and I am the team lead, or I am participating. Most of us have been involved in one project in any way or form. Think now how many people, how much effort, how many resources were poured into this idea to ensure that it came to fruition the way you intended it to be. You even have risk management embedded in the project because you want to make sure that this goes well. Well, if you have put so much work and effort into a third-party project, why wouldn't you want to put that much effort into the most important project that you will ever be involved in? You guessed it. The project is you, and the project is going to be your life. Now, the last point that we have here is safeguard, and this one kind of catches a little bit people off base. We call it safeguard because a great, well-executed, thought-out, personalized brand management plan definitely keeps you humbled and connected. It reminds you all the time why you do what you do and where you come from and where you want to go. I'm going to give you an example. Let's go to super, super old times Rome, ancient Rome. There was this gentleman, let's call it the Auriga. He was a slave. He had a gladiator status, and he was, pretty famous. He was a celebrity. Well, this gentleman had so many accolades. They were famous everywhere they went, and people wanted to be with them. They were telling them how amazing they were. They heard so much that they had to hire somebody that his sole job was to be next to this celebrity, whispering in their ear, "You are but a man." Do you know why? Because it was the only way that the celebrity would stay focused and would know where they were going, where they were coming from. A good project management plan, a personal brand plan, really, really helps you stay guarded. It helps you stay connected, and it ensures that you don't lose focus of why you started doing this in the first place. So now that we know why we have to have a great personalized personal brand plan, then let's talk about how do we do this? Well, the first steps when we're talking about a successful personal brand management plan is pretty much the same way that you handle any other project. The secret sauce is in the way that we do it. Everybody thinks that creating a personal brand is a daunting, a mythical task that you start doing a little bit, you throw in the towel and say, I'm done with it. You don't have to. One of the easiest ways why people get lost in the process of creating their own plan is because they really don't know where to start. That's precisely what we're going to focus on here. We have 6 steps here on the slide. Obviously, the first one, we already did that. It's know yourself. So know yourself has a little bit to do with the core values that we were talking about in the beginning. It is understanding why you are doing the things that you're doing. The second is know your area of influence, followed by setting a goal. If you set a goal, you need to draft a plan that is congruent with those goals, and obviously take it down a notch to the steps to achieve your goal. Once you've done that, it's key to measure and realign as needed, because nobody is static. We are dynamic beings in a dynamic environment. And my favorite, celebrate. Because when you celebrate the milestones, then it means you feel empowered to keep working on it. Let's talk about the first 3. What do you guys think? Let's do know yourself, area of influence, and setting a goal. So to know ourselves is key because most people don't take the time to do that. Most leaders, and I have lots of leaders here today, are not even aware of what makes them unique. If I had to ask a couple of you what differentiates you from any of the other leaders within the corporation, they would have a really hard time. And that's natural. Most people handle themselves that way. The natural qualities that give the personal brand, the leadership distinction, is often something that people shy away from. Now, discovering your leadership impact and influence is being able to know what your unique qualities and characteristics and skill sets are. When we manage our personal brand, this will require us to put, number one, our ideas and our ideals to a test. It's a public test. And that means that we also learn how does it work, and very important, how do people react once we expose our ideas out there. This is the point where we have to pay close attention to how other people react to me, to my ideas, and after that, refine the way that I put my ideas out there. You can have an outstanding idea. If the delivery is not there, the idea is almost like it never happened. Or even worse, you will find somebody else that takes your idea and runs with it. This part is going to require, number one, focus, but number two, tremendous amount of patience. The second one is the area of influence. And as you have guessed, it's very tied together. If I know what I am, who I am, and how I handle myself, then I'm also able to pinpoint what my area of influence is. This is asserting what I am good right now. Now, this is not what I want to be good at in the future or what I am learning right now. That's not it. That's for another webinar, and we can talk about that later. It's being absolutely right on honest of what am I good. I want to be really good, for example, at project management, but right now I'm still not good. I'm not there. What I am good at is at encouraging others or getting teams to work together. That's what you have to focus on. This is the cornerstone of brand management, being able to be congruent, and congruent means proven action gets boosted. You can't boost what you don't have. So if you really are not that good at product management, then focus on what you are and let's work with what you have. That's what makes you unique. So let's work on that one. Of course, to improve, my favorite, we need to measure. And we can't measure what is not there. So what does that mean? I need to have goals. Goals, people. If we had to write down the goals that we have for, I'm going to say 5 years. Do you have those available? Probably not, right? Well, this is a great time then. Set a time, grab your cup of coffee, grab a drink, go for a walk, do whatever you need to, and write at least 2 goals. What do you want to do within 5 years? Then once you have those, take it further. Where do you want to be in 10 years? And once you have that one set, go further. Where do you really want to be in 15 years? Let me give you an example. Do you want to be recognized as an authority in design thinking, for example? Or do you want to move on to have your own company, be a consultant in Python, for example? That's what I'm talking about. Where do you want to be? But don't keep it in your head. Put it on a piece of paper and make it visible. Then get to work on setting the goals, the steps, the one by one, on how do you get there on both the technical side and on the branding side. If people don't know that you're good, the chances that you're going to be recognized as a great or as a leader is going to be pretty slim. So we need to be very mindful of this. Now, after I know myself, know my area of influence, and I've set my goal, well, let's get to work on a plan. That's exactly what number 4 is. We draft a plan for myself. I don't care what it looks like, people. It can be a giant piece of paper. It can be on a napkin, because this is personal. So whatever you draft works. If you like it, then it works for me. Draft a plan and put in the steps that you need to achieve your goal. Obviously, you know where I'm going to go with this, right? I have a plan. I've drafted the steps. What do I need to do? Measure. And measure, because that is what helps me, like swimming lanes in a swimming pool, know if I'm headed in the right direction. Well, things aren't going that well and I'm really off track. Don't worry. don't worry, realign and go forward and move on. And obviously, every time that you hit one of those wonderful milestones and you made it, I want you to be super, super intentional and celebrate. Celebrate like nobody's business, but celebrate each and every time you hit a milestone. This is really going to make a difference in how you do your project and how you handle yourself later. Great. So we talked about core values. We also talked about steps. Check. And we need now to talk about, how about if I share with you guys the secret sauce, the key elements to making this whole thing click. This is it. This is it. The key elements of a great personal brand management just works on what are the tried and true steps, areas that really make a difference. You're going to see, I can't tell you how many thousands of different conversations about personal brand management plan. What we've found out in our research is that these 7 are the key ones and the ones that really have resisted the test of time. The first one that we have is it's focus. And focus is going to be key because so much of the value that we're going to find in this whole webinar is going to be based on that one. When we build a personal brand, it's a little bit more than just providing value in 1 or 2 different areas. It's going to be you becoming such a light in that specific area that people begin to associate your name with the idea of what it means to be successful in that industry. That's super exciting. Managing that segment effectively often equates to you becoming a thought leader, an influencer, a really good influencer in your circle of reference. We can have a killer personal statement. And let me talk about that in a little bit. You can have the best statement. You can have the best personal brand plan. Heck, you can have it all over your office and have it publicized, and you can still flop. Why? Because as with many things, success will require consistency, focus, and discipline. Do you see the background on this slide? This is a super fast car, Lamborghini. Remember of this Lamborghini being in your garage. Well, good job, Slick. You have a super, super fast car cruising at the wildering 0 miles per hour. It happens the same with people. I've seen countless examples of brilliant, brilliant people that just because they have zero movement, zero consciousness of where they want to do, then it just becomes zero movement and zero potential. We don't want that. You don't want that. A solid brand is always going to build on relationship with an audience. And your audience is going to be your peers, the people that work for you, heck, even your customers, right? It's the people who will receive your message. And they become your audience and become a part of the relationship because your message resonates with the vision, the values, and the voice that you are projecting. Everything is continuously changing. It's a dynamic environment. We are dynamic beings. So for us to make sure that we keep our course, we need to keep the foundation, the essence of who we are at the forefront all the time. What happens when we don't? You've probably seen it. It's a brand just becomes diluted. It becomes super haphazard. It's sloppy. It's incongruent. You can't pinpoint those folks. And you know what's very interesting? People probably don't remember those folks because simply it's become noise and it gets forgotten. The essence of who we are is going to be key. The results of being incongruent is going to be our efforts are incredibly diluted and we just become part of the furniture, part of the scenery. That's not what I want to do for you. Let's get this right. And let's start with focus. What does it mean to have focus to develop and to ensure the effectiveness of my personal brand management plan? The whole thing about focus ties again to the exercise that we did in the colored boxes. I need to pick a message. To pick a message, I need to remember, what's my story? My story means, where do I come from? Where do I go? And what has made me have the ideals, the values, the qualities that I have? The message also tells about a motive, a driver, and it also should tie to the result of that drive. The result will happen again, guys, if we have any continuous action about that. Let's talk about your story. When we have a story is, what is the good that comes out of my story? For example, if you read famous folks, they have come, from very humble origins. And because of that, they try to be very humble themselves when they approach other folks, because that's the good that came out of the story. That's why the story is important. Once we have that pinned down, I know what's my story, develop what we call the killer pitch. Hear me out. A killer pitch is a 15 to 20 words, not really any more than 25, it gets too wordy, that says exactly what you do. Okay, Elsa, I need an example on that one. I'm really lost. Okay, let me help you. So if you go here, let me talk about an example of a killer pitch for a coach. And this is an editor that helps other folks, other writers, to write books that sell, that do very, very well. The killer pitch for my friend Chris is, Chris coaches expert writers to write killer books in 3 months, serving 200 satisfied customers and counting. What Chris is putting out there is that what he does is he helps writers that have the work to make sure that their books are done in 3 months. That's what he's offering. And that is the kind of customers that he gets. He makes it easy for, quote unquote, his audience to know why they want to, or not, engage with him. So once you have picked your focus, what I want you to do is you have to go deep. Like Chris, he found out, I am not good at illustrations. I am just good at making sure your book makes it to the 3-month deadline. That is the key. You become an expert. That's your area of expertise. This is also going to lead you to your target audience. How so? Well, because it's going to help folks see, oh, I want somebody to help me write my book within 3 months. I need to talk about Chris. So this is a good time for you folks to understand, what am I good at? What do I want people to recognize me as? The narrower and more focused your brand is, the easier it's going to be for people to remember who you are. For a long time, the 15-second elevator speech, do you guys remember that? That was the standard. Okay, that was a little bit 80s. We now have a modified version that has gotten way better results. I want you to connect with us later. You can either connect through our email or through LinkedIn, and let me help you with that. Once you develop your killer speech, your killer statement, you're going to love it. This thing is gold, absolute gold. So we have our focus. What about number 2? Genuine. We need to be somebody that is original. We don't want to copy somebody else's successful example because it's not sustainable. It really isn't. It really isn't. Once we try to copy somebody else's, we find out that there's not a lot of traction, and sustainability is almost ridiculous. You can't make it happen. It's grueling work. And you know what? On the audience side, it sounds and feels super fake. They can read right through it. But you don't need to, remember? We want you. We want your unique traits. We want your experiences. And the way you process this information, that is what people need to hear. Now, it's easier to launch and keep up with brand tactics when they're your own. For example, if engaging other folks to make sure that the team is cohesive, if that is your jam, then that is your genuine factor. We want to find out what's your differentiator, what makes you special. Managing your personal brand is not going to be a one-stop deal. It's not going to be a project that starts today and ends in 3 months. That's not it. You have to commit to managing your personal brand and know that this is a leap of faith. You have to start to begin to think like an entrepreneur who is constantly in search of a leadership impact, of an area of influence that they want to hit. When we remain honest and true to ourselves about who we are and what we represent as a leader, as a coworker, as an individual, we eventually discover our leadership style. We also discover the work culture, the workplace that really fits our style, and then the people that really help you get to the maximum of your potentials. So I have focus. I know I need to be genuine, and just leave it at that. No. And that is the great thing. Back in the 80s, this was a huge no-no. Lifestyle and personal brand, professional brand, that was two different things. Not anymore. A more organic way of presenting ourselves is going to incorporate our work life and our lifestyle. It increases our points of identification with others. People say, oh, yeah, just like me. And that's what we want. One of the ways you can make building a personal brand difficult on yourself is when we separate these two things, my lifestyle and what my brand is. It's doable, but it's really easier if you initially create a personal brand that incorporates the key components of my lifestyle and my brand. One of the guys that I really liked reading about, Team Salou, he works with college students, and he was saying that a personal brand follows you everywhere you go. And if we are not careful about this brand, the bad part of the brand, can crash a meeting and say things you don't want it to say even before you get there. So that's another reason why we want to be careful on both sides of the spectrum. After I've combined this story, I need to make sure that this story is clear, it's easy, and it's relatable. That is what we mean by relatable, or tying it to the story. The most effective personal branding strategy that we have these days is to build a true narrative, a story. Stories are really key to meaning and memory as human beings. The information we pass on via stories makes sense because it relates to the structure of human action. It's how survival information got passed down way before there were any written forms around. Stories are at the real core of who we are. Now, when we abuse the purpose of a story and fill it with dead information, with fillers, we lose the listener, totally lose them out. For example, if you are just shouting what you are about without a clear connection to yourself as a person, you become noise, and noise gets tuned out. A great example of this is Steve Jobs. Regardless of how you feel about the guy, Steve Jobs was a master storyteller. Do you know why? Because he skipped the what, and he went straight to, why should you be here listening to me? And that's what we want to know. We're very smart people. We don't need to be told, or even worse, we don't need anybody to read the slides for us. What we want to know is, what is the reason why I should devote time to you? So don't make it more jargony than it needs to be. That really doesn't work. And people can just see through it that you're just trying to make it look more important than what it is. We want our audience to feel smart. That is the key. Now, does it always go great? I wish. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Now, Virgin Cola, what we have here, is a great example. You probably don't remember what it is, right? Whether not a lot of people do, because Virgin Cola flopped. And I'm not talking about small flop. Theirs was a major, major flop. Virgin Cola was super publicized, I want to say back in 2000s, 2008 or something. And this drink was launched exclusively on Virgin's planes in Mr. Branson's movie theaters, and it managed to peak at a little but significant in the drink world, 0.5 market share. Production of the drink had to stop in 2012 because all the U.S. soft drink giants, hello Pepsi, hi Coca-Cola, fought back, and guess what? They won. What I'm saying is the best products go through multiple iterations before they get it right. Famous people like Mr. Branson fail many, many times before getting a successful product. So I love failure, and I love talking about failure because failure is actually a great document to say what doesn't work. In case you get a lot of negative self-talk up in your head, I want you to do something for me. I want you to go and tell the negative committee that's living in your head to be quiet. Nobody wants their opinion. Failure really makes us resilient, and it helps us handle the headwinds way smarter. On a personal side, failure was my nemesis. I would be in bed in the middle of the night, waking up and remembering vividly the mistake that I have done that day, or remembering something that had happened 10 years ago. Well, let me tell you something, guys. Nobody remembers that. For no other reason that people are way more focused on themselves. So, you know what? They're not going to remember that mistake that you did a couple of weeks ago. If it happened years ago, forget it. It's dead. It's only living overdue in your head. Don't worry about it. Eventually, what you want to do is think about it. Learn what happened, learn how not to do it again, and learn to get the good out of that. That's when it becomes a winning factor. Think of failure as a stepping stone to get you closer to where you want to go rather than a giant marquee, a giant banner of your error. So this seems like a lot of work, Elsa. I'm not sure I can do it all by myself. Well, you don't have to, my friend. I never said that you were alone. Let's think of community. Community is fantastic because it helps us not have to reinvent the wheel. Isn't that awesome? The best practices are a fantastic example of working smarter and not harder. Instead of trying to figure out how to develop your story or what times it makes sense to post something online or how do I handle myself when I'm working with a team or criticism, find out who is a subject matter expert in this area and connect with them. Ask for help. Most subject matter experts or SMEs become SMEs because there is a personal interest, a passion about the subject. I know this because as an SME myself, I love it when I get the chance to talk about my favorite subject. And expand your area of attention. Some of us just think of, okay, read a book about it and keep it there. No. Go up and go down. So think of a celebrity, somebody big that you know that's who you want to become. Then look at them, study them, and find out how they did it. But also, don't forget about those that are working close to you. One of my favorite guys, Mike Moss, he's a mastermind in the CIP world, in the continuous improvement processes. And he taught me something that was so clear and so easy that I had no clue how I never got that clear. It's just keep it simple. Keep it simple all the time. If you have the option of being super complicated or simple, go for simple. Thinking community or learning from others is key because regardless of what stage in your life or in your career you're in, it's rare that you're going to do or have it done in an isolated form or fashion. The dynamics of the time, the connectivity, it just makes a necessity to do our best work knowing that we are always at arm's length of helping someone or needing somebody's help. Keeping a positive attitude and helping others is going to help your brand immensely in the long run. Now, I want you guys to take this one, and you're going to have the slides for home. But at the end of today, take some time to talk about this to yourself. I wouldn't suggest sharing this with anybody because part of the process is you being very in tune with yourself. Ask yourself these 3 questions. According to everything we've talked today, what must I keep doing? What are the good things that I need to make sure I keep doing? but also, what must I stop doing? Am I being too fearful to reach out? Do I keep remembering my mistakes? And then the last one, what must I start doing? Well, I could do a better job at reaching out to others and help them see where I can help. Now, once we've cleared that one, the last one, folks, my favorite, action focused. You know why we need to have focused action? Because information depends on action to create a change. One of my favorite speakers really takes this because they found and established a brand call. It means who are you and how do you relay it in a quick sentence or something. You're going to hear it from me. I use a lot. Let's land this plane. And it just means we're getting close to the end and we're going to wrap it up together. At the key of this, once you have action focused and to make sure you're doing the right thing, let's use metrics so that we can measure if we're in the right path to success. I love this slide that we have here because this is the secret ingredients part. Elsa, if I had to take 3 things to remember about this whole session, what would you say? Number 1, my favorite, have a professional purpose. You can't design anything if you don't know why you're doing it. My second favorite, or right in tune with that, would always be learn to listen, practice empathy. You can be a brilliant person, but a brilliant person that can't talk to others is just a very, very, very quiet individual. And obviously, I want you to make sure that you embrace, you expound on your experiences, and that you use them to move forward and to make things and make changes. Now, today, like I promised, this is what we did. We talked about a personal brand management plan. We learned how to do it. We have some tips. We even got started on what we need to do. And you guys have done brilliantly, brilliantly. Just remember your 3 questions. What must I stop doing? What must I keep doing? And what must I stop doing? Just remember, you have to be proactive, practice patience, and avoid getting distracted. Managing your personal brand is very key because you want to do it before somebody else does. Guys, this has been amazing. I hope your coffee was just as good as mine was. And I know that if your company was just as good as the company that I had in this last hour, you had a wonderful, wonderful time. You know what? I'm going to consider myself with a bunch of new friends. Thank you, guys. You are awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Elsa. That was a great presentation. Would you want to take some questions from the group?
Absolutely. But before we do that, Scott, I have a winner. Yay!
Great.
I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name, so you can be mean to me afterwards. Saharsh Pamecha. Saharsh Pamecha, I am excited. I can't wait to put some turbo engines on your resume. So please reach out to us because afterwards you can tell all your friends how much of a difference I made in your life and probably name your first kid after me and all that jazz.
So Elsa, we have their email from the registration log, so we will pass that to you so you can get in touch with them. And as you can see, Elsa's email is also on the slide, so feel free to, you or as I think Elsa mentioned earlier, anyone can reach out to Elsa from the M&E group with questions and help if they need it.
Perfect. Do we have questions, Scott? I think we have a couple of minutes left.
I think they might still be typing. Let's give them a few minutes to see what comes in.
Okay. Perfect. Yes, and remember, folks, I really love talking about this subject. It's a passion of mine. So if you have specific questions, that's exactly what we want to hear. It's your case what I'm interested in. As you can guess, I love puzzles, so your case is a puzzle, and I want to hear about it. I did have one that says how to reach a target audience. Great question, Tariq. Number 1, establish what you're good at. Once you know what you're good at, that is going to tell you what's the reach. And as you dive deeper and deeper and deeper, you will find out, well, I'm really good about, for example, data mining. So obviously, the folks or your target audience is anybody interested or a consumer of data mining. That's how you know what your target audience is. What's the reach? The reach is how far do you want to go? Do you want to develop your own software, your own systems, your own platform? That's your target audience, people who would put money or who would invest in that.
Elsa, I was scanning through all the comments we got. Someone had a question on time management. Is there a way to handle time management and balance your time better that you can share with them?
Yes, absolutely. And we hit it very, very lightly here. I think we have a webinar about that, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, time management is two things. Think of waste. And waste is anything that doesn't produce a good result. I'm not going to be mean about it, but if you find yourself scrolling through Facebook, just scrolling, is that producing something beneficial? If you say no, then that is something that you have to kill. Once you start doing that, immediately, don't wait after it, immediately replace it with something that is fruitful. So for example, start with something small. Instead of scrolling through Facebook, say, every time I find myself scrolling through Facebook, I'm going to get up and do 10 squats. Hear me out. The reason is this is a habit, and time management is nothing else but habit. It's changing the current habits and replacing them with something that brings value. I have hours and hours to talk about that, so hit me up on LinkedIn. We can talk about this, and I can absolutely help you with that. I see here.
Elsa, do you see the priority of high, medium, and low on your Q&A box?
Yes.
If you scroll to medium, there are I just see a bunch of questions. You want to go through and pick some?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I just got one here that I really, really like. I like the comments about the killer pitch. Perfect. Yes, I like the Lamborghini. I know, it's still a Lamborghini. I get that. Perfect. Yes, we will send this the PowerPoint. Scott's team is going to have that. And watching the recording is also going to be an option. I understand. Time management. Let me see. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Oh, thank you. And goals, yes. When there's too many goals, how do you pursue and how do you identify the key ones? Just focus with one. Please do that, because it's when you start to want to do too many things, you get diluted. You can't do that. Pick one, make it a habit, make it part of who you are, and then move on to the next one. That's also the secret, by the way, of how you lose weight. You just do one step at a time. And that's for free, guys. I'm not charging you for that one. I think you're muted, Mike. Yeah, Mike has an answer for a question here. What was the question, Mike? Great question. We have an electrical engineer. Yay, Dolise. And he wants to know, he wants to become a consultant. Does he go through LinkedIn? Yes. But before you do that, please, comb through what you have on social media, Twitter, Facebook, anything like that. Clean it up, my friend. Because I can tell you, I help a lot of people. I hire people on a daily basis. That's what I do. And I can tell you, the first thing that I do is I check your LinkedIn and I go Facebook, Instagram, and any of that. If I see anything there, technical term here, funky, that's an easy sign for me to drop it because it's not congruent. So before you go to LinkedIn, clean it up and post accordingly. Keep it nice and personal, but make sure that nothing there is going to derail your efforts. Great question. I loved it. Yes, LinkedIn Premium, that's always a great investment. That's always a great investment. And no, I don't get paid by LinkedIn. It just really works. It's really worth your money. Scott, thank you so much. You guys are always a delight to work with. It's I can't say it enough, and I'm just thrilled. I have a huge heart for professional associations. I think you guys are doing an amazing job, and it's always a pleasure joining you guys, and I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Elsa. We love working with you and love hearing what you have to say. I think there was a lot. This was a very interactive presentation. I thought the 7 elements you gave were really helpful, and I really liked the key tips slide you had at the end. I think once everyone gets a hold of these slides, they'll be able to refer back to them and be really handy. So thank you. As we wrap up here, I think there were a few questions we didn't get a chance to cover, and we'll forward those off to Elsa and her partner Michael, and we'll get answers back to you.
Absolutely.
But just for right before we wrap up, if you enjoy this webinar, we can register for the next one in this series, which will be held on May 14th, also at 11 a.m. Eastern. It'll cover the 4 languages of influence. It'll be by Roger Granis, who is the principal of the Granis Group. We are also hosting a distinguished lecturer webinar series, which focuses more on technical talks from our experts across all the numerous technical fields and topics within computer science and computer engineering. The next webinar in that series is 2 weeks from today on May 7th on cyber physical security through information flow. That webinar will be presented by Bruce McMillan, who is a professor at the Missouri University of Science and Technology. Registration links for both emails will be in the email you receive with the recording and the slides from today's presentation. Again, I would like to thank all of you for attending and Elsa for sharing her insights and knowledge with us. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Wonderful. Be safe, everybody.